Committee hall is adjourned, 6:59.
We invite all who care to stand and join us in the recitation of the Lord's Prayer, followed by a moment of silence. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. It is now 7 o'clock. Shelby City Council meeting is called to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please, Mr. Crum.
Mr. Rob.
I thought I already answered this question.
Here. Mr. Roberts. Here. Mr. Gates.
Here.
Mr. Martin.
Here.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Here.
I will now entertain a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal from December 5th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Roberts and a second by Mr. Martin to dispense with the reading of the journal from December 5th, 2022. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yay.
Mr. Rob.
Yay.
Mr. Roberts.
Yay.
Mr. Gates.
Yay.
Mr. Martin.
Yay.
And motion passes. Now comes the time for public comment. If anyone has comment they'd like to make to the City Council, please come to the podium at this time, state your name and address, and make your comments. Would you please?
Well, good evening. I'm Jonathan J. Seelman, 19 Seneca Drive, Shelby, Ohio. As many of you know, I've been up here before. I'm an outgoing Board of Elections member. It's in that hat I'm here speaking to you today. December 31st will be my last day on the Board of Elections. I'm stepping down in order to run for elective office here in Shelby. But prior to stepping down, there's been an ongoing issue, I don't know, right? That revisits every 2 years the board regarding Shelby's petition due dates that are in the city charter. I felt it would be remiss if I stepped off the board without at least bringing it back to the council's attention. As the councilman likely knows, up for re-election, petitions are due 75 days before the primary election. All of the petitions in the calendar are due 90 days before the primary election. This is because Shelby's charter says 75 days. My friend Councilman Gates has the history, and I'm sure has opinions should this board committee decide to take that up and debate it. But it does draw a few irregularities I want to bring to the council's attention. The first being that our charter doesn't address disputes or objections to a candidacy. Since our charter doesn't address it, that means that they are heard 74 days, they're due 74 days before the primary. Your petitions are due the 75th day. The deadline to petition or to object to one of those petitions is 74 days. So in effect, you have 1 day that a Shelby office can be petitioned before the Board of Elections is required to certify them whether they are eligible or not, at which point it then turns over directly to the courts. The board no longer can act on an unqualified individual running for Shelby office. The other area that our charter doesn't address is write-in petitions. Because our charter doesn't address it, that leaves the state default, which is 72 days before. So you can file your petition 75 days, or if you're a write-in candidate, you can file 72 days. Really makes no sense to have a write-in candidacy at that point if you didn't file your regular petition. Again, this delays some of the work of the Board of Elections. It delays logic and accuracy testing. It only gives approximately 30 days before UOCAVA overseas ballots have to go out in order to put the Shelby candidates on there. I know it's not your job to make the Board of Elections' job easier. However, If this council would ever take up that issue again, I'd ask you to consider realigning those dates with the state standard petition due dates. Like I said, that would allow all these petitions to be processed at the same time. You know, what's happening now, by February 1st, everyone else in the county's petition is being processed, and then any Shelby petition comes in later, gets processed after that. And anyone who's worked in business knows when you have a set workflow, when something's non-standard, it just introduces risks for errors, opportunities for errors. So, you know, should this council decide to take up that issue, I'd be glad to talk about it further. But, you know, certainly, Councilman Gates, having worked at board elections and been around, knows the reasons that these dates have been moved. Primarily, and to the city's credit, the city's amended their charter multiple times to accommodate the state changing their deadline. So my recommendation would be for this council to consider adopting language that would simply adopt the state's deadlines, should the state choose to adjust those in the future. So that's what I have. I'd be glad to discuss it with anybody if you have further questions. Thank you.
You want to say that case for our questions? Are there any questions from council? And certainly, Ms. Shelby, thank you for bringing it from a voice of experience, actually more recently worked there and then worked through these types of issues.
I forgot this time. I'm here as an individual board member. I'm not representing the views of the board. Just from my work there, I've noticed it's something that comes up.
Thank you. Appreciate your comment. We're still now in public comment. If anyone has any public comment they would like to make before council, please come to the podium and state your name and address and make your comment to council.
Thank you for your attention. My name is Sal Clark. I live at 10 Sun Street, Shelby. And I'd like to make a statement. This is to the citizens of Shelby and this council. Who's the councilman at large? I called and would like, and I asked for a copy of a phone call or the same evidence I've been asking for. He hung up on me. And as he was hanging up, I said, "Are you refusing to identify?" He had the integrity to call me back and give me his name. He would hurt my feelings and he would hang up on me. But he's not going to lie to me. That I can deal with. But the rest of the prosecutor, where's the prosecutor? You knew there was no crime. You prosecuted me for a crime. You were standing there. You accused me of causing a disturbance. I answered a subpoena to this place. I walked out the door after I talked to you. The arresting officer, or the person who was on duty, said he was a victim of my disturbance. You knew there was no disturbance. He was not eligible to play victimhood. And he lied to me the next day. He said, "You were the victim of that crime that I committed that day. And you prosecuted me for that." I don't know who was responsible to teach you right from wrong when you were growing up, but you shamed me, sir. You should never be sitting in that place right there. You've done it before. A society prohibits the capacity to speak the truth, extinguishes the capacity to live in justice. Tyrants invert the rule of law. They turn the law into an instrument of injustice. They cloak their crimes in a faux reality. They use the decorum of courts and trials to mask their criminality. Those people who expose their criminality, such as myself, we are dangerous. But without the pretext of legitimacy, the tyranny loses credibility and has nothing left in its arsenal but fear, coercion, and violence. You grant this forum legitimacy. You do. Wrong. The broad cooperation of your subordinates and the crimes against me, oh God, in your echelon, but in other jurisdictions, is utterly terrifying. And it's this expedited fluidity and soulless devotion to the destruction of my civil rights and the divinely given civil liberties. The only tool you've utilized, you've completely outlawed the Constitution here, right? And I'm going to read you some things that I have written in the past. After I read this is an investigative report written by this place, Officer Scott. 5 times I was supposed to come down to Officer Scott and make a statement about my stolen motorcycle. I postponed that. I gave you a bogus reason, usually every time. But this time I'm closing the case to an uncooperative victim. Numerous attempts have been made to interview South who claims to have information on where his motorcycle parts are located. South continues to claim that nobody will help him in this matter, but it appears he is the only one standing in his way. Prior to being assigned this case, Officer Swisher appears to have followed up on any leads by South. Crawford County has also assisted by sending a deputy to an address where South believed his parts were located. The deputy stated he inspected the bike, observed nothing out of the ordinary, and stated he does not observe anything with parts belonging to South. He said that I'm the only one standing in my own way. It says on 9/24, I received a voicemail from South stating that he is unable to do an interview due to the fact that he believes this is a setup to get him arrested. A copy of the voicemail will be in the case. So I'm the only one standing in my way. My lawyer looked at me and said, you don't understand, Mr. Hall, you got this coming to you. When I told him I didn't understand why he didn't present any evidence at my trial, he had a journal that it says, he had this on his desk. I'd already been kidnapped, what you call arrested, which Brian Hall sent my picture to the arresting officer an hour and a half, 2 hours before he randomly pulled us over. That's called a kidnapping, gentlemen. Your office knows this. I reported this. Y'all covered it up. You have your name on a piece of paper, I have, and it says you would preserve all evidence. You haven't done that either. But man, what he had on his desk was deep suspicion on Brian is setting me up with partnership of the police department. The cops hate the fact that I won't stop demanding the reason why Darrell Hall got away with his crimes when he kept his beautiful mother up for 3 days, Darrell is too quiet, something up, he is dealing again. SPD knows. Is Brian setting me up for someone? Brian Hall will stop over to see about trading a pickup for my Explorer. He might be setting me up for SPD. I know who SPD is. Before I walked out the door, I was going to let Brian Hall kill me because I wanted to die. Every day I got up, I wanted to die. I had a panic attack every day I woke up in this town. I wanted to let Brian kill me. If this cost me my life in some way, or I die before Honey, my best friend, Doug Sykes said he'd take her. God, it hurts me so much writing this. I love that dog so much. Darrell is still trying to kill her. There's more in here. This is my Social Security paperwork, where it says at least 5 times, I'm a prisoner in my home. Statements like this. Darrell and Brian Eugene Hall have tried to kill me, vandalized my property, and stolen my Harley Davidson. The constant death threats and admittance to the theft is ignored by Shelby police, as is the arson committed, the attempted murder of myself. I have tried to report these crimes and been threatened with arrest every time, up until 5 days ago, at which time a report was accepted. This was 10/26/17. I was kidnapped January 26, 18, just about a month after that. But these are all over the Shelby cops, including Darrell Hall, who stole my motorcycle, burned the house down, and tried to kill me. How well do you get along with authority figures? All these are on my Social Security paperwork. Not well. No civil rights in Shelby for civilians. Shelby police are corrupt. Makes you proud, doesn't it? When going out, how do you travel? I hate to drive. Neighbors are trying to kill me and burn my house down. This is documented. The days I spent sleeping between my neighbor's garage and his house, they called because I left my cane there. I was walking really bad. I didn't want to get up. I told them, now, no one's indigent living there. I'm just sleeping there so I can catch Darrell all the way to burn my house down. These were crimes committed for you. They kidnapped me, man. They kidnapped me, held me incommunicado for 5 days. 5 days after I was kidnapped, no communication, no phone call, nothing. I was pronounced guilty when I was arraigned, and they gave me a public defender who should hang by the neck until he's dead. You should hang. What they've done in your name, man. You cost me my inheritance. My whole family left me in a prison or in a cell. They didn't know that God was riding with me. And they all called me a liar. Because this establishment, this forum has an air of dignity now because you were on it. God help us, man. God help us. You know, I just exercise my First Amendment right. If I don't have the right to talk about what I think about, the Constitution is dead here. I appreciate your time. And I'm sorry if I was out of line. God bless you.
Any further public comment? We do have Jessica Griffin on the for comment, economic development manager. So I think we have an end of year report and something very positive and good exciting news.
Hello all. It's been a while since I've done one of these, so I did a presentation this time, so we can all look at it together. But it has been 4 years that I've been in this position, just a little over at this point, and so much has happened in that 4 years. A lot of really good things for the city, and a lot of things I'm really proud of. But the main thing I want to say is this was kind of like I don't know, it seemed a little experimental when we first started it. This position was a hybrid of, Shelby contracting with the CIC to perform economic development through me, through the chamber, and I hope you all feel like you've gotten your money's worth out of it. I think it's been a really successful experiment. I know there's been discussion throughout the county of replicating it other places. So anyway, I'm glad to be here 4 years later. So I will jump in. That picture was taken the day we did the ribbon cutting on Main Street. So it turned out really well. So I thought I'd throw it up there. Things I want to go over. This is just the agenda. I get to do this all over again tomorrow for Shelby Foundation. So. Yeah. So 2022 has been an awesome year. Kind of coming off of, COVID felt like it lasted a really long time. I know there's still some effects that we are living through today, but this felt like the most normal year, I would say, since all of that. So 2022 was a lot of really good things. That first picture you see there, actually Destination Mansfield is using that in their marketing for their, what do they call it, Wine and Nail Trail. So picture at the vault. We got a bunch of Rotarians together and did a photo shoot, and it's nice that that's featured on the Mansfield for the Wine and Nail Trail. And the second picture is Main Street in process. So we'll talk about some of the wins there as we get into downtown. Joe, do you want to go to the next slide? 2022. So this council has for a couple of years now sponsored the facade improvement program, which I think that's been wildly successful. We can kind of look at the numbers here and see that. We've done a total of 4 projects over the 2 years. 3 are complete. 1 we're still waiting on. There's just some challenges with getting permits and things like that. So and then I think the weather turned on. So likely that will be completed maybe spring of next year. So that's for this year. So $27,000 in total investment. Over the time we've done this program, we've funded $20,000 worth of grants, $2,500 still pending, and we've had $52,000 worth of private investment. So I'd say we got our money's worth out of that program. So one of the main wins we've seen in 2022 is our Main Street streetscape, and that was a painful process for a lot of our downtown businesses, but hopefully they will all reap the rewards of kind of seeing that through. Phase 1, when we completed it, we were super excited to open the street. I think no one was more excited than Mayor Joe and myself and our small businesses. So now we're fully into phase 2. The park is in process. They're down there working every day, freezing cold, and we of course had a groundbreaking for that. So. The funding aspect of that was challenging. Thanks to you guys for stepping up to the plate and putting, the city of Shelby behind that project. That allowed us to get county funding as well. They saw that it was important to us, so it was important to them. So that was a nice win. And then some of our downtown wins, we've done a lot of ribbon cuttings this year. So if you haven't been into Marigold Bakery, please get in there. They have a lot of really good products. If you need stuff for Christmas, they have a couple more days that they're open, but that's been a really nice, they kind of redid the entire inside of that. It was really nice, and have done a nice job. We welcomed dog grooming back to Shelby. I think it briefly left, and now then we got to do ribbon cutting for them. The Dove Candle Bar, where you can go in and actually pick your own scents and make your own candles. So some fun destination places in downtown. And then, of course, VFW moved to our Main Street as well. So, and we've seen a lot of activity from that. So then industry. So Main Street's the fun, exciting part. Industry is the backbone of this community. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes with industry, but I kind of wanted to talk to you about some of the things and successes we've had. Obviously, we visited Shelby Welded Tube with Angela, and that was a great tour and had great conversation and have continued to have a good relationship with them. Lance actually, well, he left, but he did some work with them to kind of help with the problem they were having with the ambulancers and 911, and we really come up with a solution that will work for them. And those are the kind of things that nobody really hears about or talks about, but it solves a problem for a business that keeps them satisfied and keeps them in Shelby. Ooh, that's hard to read. Next time it won't be white. So we've got four manufacturers here in town that are looking to grow their footprint. We've also been able to assist with training dollars, so we have a partnership through our workforce development team with the JFS, and they do incumbent worker training. So we have been able to assist with incumbent worker training in Shelby, and actually Shelby's, the municipality has had more dollars spent on training than any other municipality, so I always like to brag about that. We've had multiple letters of support that we've sent to Jobs Ohio to get projects done. And we've had 3 offers through Jobs Ohio for Shelby companies, 2 of which are signed, sealed, and 1 will likely be delivered probably shortly after the first of the year. 1 they did not accept only because they just weren't ready to move forward yet. So big news, of course, at Lloyd Rebar. They are expanding their footprint. You'll see some legislation coming your way regarding that shortly. But they are going to basically double their footprint out of Technology Park. So Jared's goal of filling up the park himself is maybe going to come to fruition. But that'll add 10 new full-time jobs over there. And that's a contract with Intel, so super excited about that. A second expansion that's receiving Jobs Ohio support is Custom Control Technologies, and they are going to be expanding, growing here in Shelby. That's a really nice story. Local ownership was getting ready to retire and was ready to sell the company, and they actually sold to one of their largest customers, who actually lives in North Carolina. So the intent was to sell it to this customer, and they were going to move their company to North Carolina. Since then, they hired a local Shelby guy who really wanted to keep it in Shelby. He's done a lot of work to, build that pipeline of talent, and then we got with them, and we were able to give them a really nice offer from Jobs Ohio. So they are going to be growing right here, just outside of the city of Shelby, but certainly makes an impact on Shelby. So they have 16 jobs there currently. They're going to add 9 more over the next 3 years. So those 2 expansions are about $1 million in new payroll and about $5 million in capital expenditures. A third company we're going to be meeting with early next year that will likely grow their footprint pretty significantly as well, right here in Shelby. And then the fourth that we kind of talked about with the Jobs Ohio letter, I anticipate over the next 2 years. They are doing some capital expenditures currently, but their real growth will probably happen in the next couple of years, and I'll be excited to tell you about that when it happens. And then, like I said, with the issues we saw, sometimes it's behind the scene things. A bus stopping in the wrong spot by a company who has people going in and out, and it's unsafe. And that's just something we take care of, that we can do locally, that we, just makes it a business-friendly place to be in Shelby. All right, housing has been a big conversation. So if you go to the next slide. Well, actually, go back 1 second, sorry. So this was our strategy session that we had, I think it was last week, I don't know, but they're all weeks running together here at the end of the year, it's been crazy. But this was a strategy session where we brought together developers, realtors, everyone kind of in the housing world in the county. We wanted to pick their brains and see, how do we make this a good place to build housing? How do we build the kind of housing that we need? How do we encourage development in the right areas and the right places and all that stuff? So we brought together that group and started to kind of piece that together. So the housing study, go to the next slide. That conversation started right here in Shelby. I think we talked about that when I asked you guys for funding for it. CIC was looking at how do we move the needle on some things here in Shelby, and housing really seemed to be kind of the next conversation. I really feel like we kind of got ahead of the game on that. As the year played out, housing was coming up all over the place in economic development. So at our state convention, basically they added another day. It's usually a 3-day event. They added a 4th day that was entirely dedicated to housing. So I feel like we were ahead of the game there. The conversation started here in Shelby. You guys were on board, and I appreciate that. You kicked in for that housing study. The county kicked in. We were, we knew we wanted something good for Shelby. If Shelby had to fund it all, it would have been cost prohibitive, but being able to pull the rest of the county in and get everybody to contribute, now we've got a very robust study and strategy that we'll be able to kind of take forward and really make some good changes. So that study will be complete, likely the end of this month, and then I'll bring it back to you guys to present the Shelby portion once we have that available. And I guess lastly on housing, so as part of my education piece that I had to do this year, I had to do a capstone, and it really made sense. They want you to do something that's going to benefit your community. We were already talking about the housing piece, so I made that my capstone, and obviously it worked because I got my certification, so that was a win. Can you go to the next slide? All right, so what's next? Downtown, like I said, phase 1 is complete, phase 2 is in process. The next phase is phase 3. There will probably be an ask at some point. When we did the initial plan, we had 3 phases. The first 2 were really kind of nailed down as far as what they would look like. The third was a little bit nebulous because we were waiting on the school to figure out what was going to happen with Central, figure out what was happening with the football field. So there were just a lot of things that were up in the air. So we will really need to dig into that and see what does phase 3, what all does it encompass, how does it work, and where do we find funding for it. So likely there will be an ask for that. And then downtown. So we have a beautiful downtown, and we have a beautiful park that's going to be coming in the spring. We need to infill with some additional businesses. So we are seeing buildings start to change hands. We're seeing local ownership in a lot of those cases, which is probably the best case scenario for us. We've had some out-of-town ownership that has not gone well. So we'll hope to continue that trend. And then, of course, supporting the growth of successful local endeavors. So obviously, the big one that comes to mind that's fresh and new to everybody is Black Fork Brewing. That was, a private individual who really wanted to do something right here in Shelby, and Bill and I worked on that for several months to try and figure out what made sense and where it made sense and where they would be zoned properly, and I think we're going to have a really successful business there. Industry, we're going to continue to support our local businesses and growth and expansions. There's state resources out there. If they're going to give them somewhere, I want them to give them to Shelby, so I will try to support every project that we have here and find different ways and different resources to bring to our local businesses so they can continue to grow. You hear recession thrown around, and I think Ohio's in a really good place right now. Probably the best we've been in a long time as we're facing an uncertain economy. We may ride this one out in a little better shape, so we just want to make sure Shelby's right up there with that growth and supporting our businesses. And then we need to focus on strategy for moving forward. So as we are talking about our businesses growing, they're looking for space, they're looking for land that's ready for them to go to, utilities that are in place, buildings that are available, and quite frankly, it's slim picking. So we need to be thinking down the road what makes sense for Shelby so that we can continue to grow and have space for our businesses to grow right here rather than somewhere else. And then the housing study. So once that is out, the study itself is just phase 1. Certainly it's important to know where we're at, but really we need to know where we're going, and we need to have a plan to get there. So all of the people who have been recruited to the Housing Steering Committee, which are countywide, have all committed to kind of seeing it through in their own way. So some parts of that are going to be affordable housing and attainable housing, and there are certain groups that will work on that. There are some that are going to be working on development and making sure we're getting in front of the right people and getting them, telling our story so we can make sure development happens here. And then utilizing incentives and coming up with new incentives and thinking of creative ways to make sure that we're taking care of who's here and we are attractive to other people who might want to move here. So that's what's next. And last but not least, I guess that's last. There we go. So in conclusion, thanks for your commitment to seeing economic development through in Shelby. I appreciate all of your support over the last 4 years, but including this year. I think we've done a lot of really good things. I think we've started a lot of really good things that will certainly bear fruit in the future. And I was talking to Councilman McLaughlin today, and you feel the momentum, and it feels really good that, you know, a lot of great things are happening in all sectors, and some of it is, there are things that we've had our hand in, and some of it are things that we haven't, but, you know, a rising ship, what is it, rising tide raises all boats? That's the word, there we go, something like that. Anyway, it feels like that. It feels like things are moving in the right direction, and I think I've had a small part in that, and I think you certainly had a part in that as well. So thank you for your support, and we'll see what comes next. Questions or comments?
Thank you very much for the report. I just wanted to offer a sentiment that you downplay greatly your role in helping us when you say you played a small part. You certainly played a significant part. We see that. I think I'll speak for council in that regard. We see that and definitely appreciate everything you've done for our city and everything you continue to do for our city. So thank you for the report. It is a great thing to see and continually realize as we continue to push that we are the crown jewel of rural Ohio. So appreciate it. Thank you.
May I say, Ms. Scriven is so humble. She did not mention she's an award-winning economic development manager as well, and we are privileged to have her. She's in close proximity to Mr. Geis's office and mine, and it is a constant activity in that office area, phone calls, conferences, seminars, going out and making contacts in the city. So I couldn't be more pleased with having Ms. Scriven here in the city of Shelby, and also helping northern Richland County in that economic development, being the northern hub of activity. She certainly brings a wonderful spirit of collaboration with the county, and we've been the benefactors of that. Thank you. Any other public comment? Well, if not, let's move to reports from standing and special committees. Finance and Personnel Committee, Councilman Gates.
Thank you, Mayor. The committee met last Thursday, and our first item of business was to go over the financial statement. My colleagues will grab theirs and turn to the back page. We'll look briefly at city income tax collections. As of the end of November, the city had taken in roughly $5.7 million in city income tax collections. If you look across the other four columns to the left, you will not see anything with $5 million there. So that is significant. There's some speculation as to whether we will hit the $6 million mark in December. I'm sure the finance director will let us know if that happens, so stay tuned to your emails. Looking down in November, you can see that we took in about $280,000 in November. So robust income tax collections. Let's turn to the second page where we can see a breakdown of the three categories. Individual income tax, $977,000. That's about 21% over the 3-year average. Jumping down to withholding, $3.1 million. That's 18% over the 3-year average. Business, $1.6 million. The percentage there means nothing because we had some outliers there, some significant collections. So that's the good news about income tax. Let's turn to the front page. The finance director explained that we had received our bill for liability insurance for 2023. And of course, insurance has to be paid up front. That was paid. And so that has an impact on some of the funds coming into the point where we are this year. The annual insurance, liability insurance is up 14%, 2023 over 2022. Looking at the general fund, see the general fund is very healthy. Just in year-to-date cash change, $1.1 million. Again, the additional income tax distribution and ARPA monies are explain that. Going down, park and health are in good shape. A big encumbrance there in the park, and of course that's for phase 2 of the Black Fork Commons. So as the contractor works along and gets paid, I'm sure he turns an invoice monthly, that'll start to whittle its way down. Capital improvement, $415,000 in cash, $412,000 in encumbrances, and again, that's where we're doing good work for the people of the city of Shelby. Where there are capital improvements that need to be made, we have the wherewithal to make them, and we have been making them, so that's a good thing. Looking at the streets, alleys, and catch basins, $406,000. That's a good number going into into next year, where we can start to look, as we certainly hope, and perhaps, as I had said last month, maybe as early as February, can have our plans ready to go out for bid. Next, we look at the 3 utilities, and pretty much the same tune as we've had the past few months, particularly involving the sewer fund, where we have $46,000 free and clear. In the water department, $128,000 free and clear. And in the electric fund, $4.2 million free and clear. Hospitalization is in good shape. You can see it there at the bottom. We have $2.8 million in encumbrances. The Deputy Finance Director has contacted department heads for them to cancel out POs that are not going to be used. People accuse governments of finding money. Well, we don't find any money because, as Finance Director DeVito said, I haven't lost any. So, but one way that if money indeed is found, it's by canceling out purchase orders, because those monies which were encumbered, that could not be spent for anything else, now go into the unencumbered monies and are subject to reappropriation. So it's very important for the city, particularly as we go into start to prepare the appropriations ordinance, that we know indeed what we have free and clear. For example, that the encumbrance for the park, that's still going to be there after January 1st. But if we can get rid of all as many encumbrances or as many purchase orders as we can, the better off we're going to be. Turning then to the next page, we can see a comparison. The total budget, revenues exceed expenditures by $1.2 million. For the general fund, revenues exceed expenditures by $1.1 million. Going down to general fund revenue, looking at the income tax revenue transfers, $3.4 million. Last year, as of the end of November, it was $2.5 million. So you can see we have an additional $906,000 in the general fund because of income tax. Looking at the next page, again, we can see the comparisons, revenue versus expenditures. Expenditures have exceeded revenues in the water fund by $69,000. Likewise, expenditures have exceeded revenues in the water fund by $144,000. Electric, we have a decrease there, but that's because we are intentional about dropping, well, no, not in this case, excuse me. Again, expenditures exceeded revenues by $155,000. Wages are on target in all funds, 2.9% increase. The next page, we see the cash investment reconciliation statement. The finance director shared with us, he has been in contact with Mechanics Bank and will process the paperwork so that Mechanics can become a depository in the city of Shelby. We're the depositor. With interest rates going up as a result of the actions of the Federal Reserve, that's it's always good to have additional depository agreement in case there is a product there at Mechanics that makes sense for us to invest our monies in. Total investments, again as of the end of November, $6.8 million. Checking accounts, $9.6 million. Total in the city treasury as of November 30th, $16,389,693.93. The next page is the Sutter-Roush fund. It has had some increase in its balance during the year. Mayor, in regard to personnel, you had said that we have 3 firefighters who are scheduled to begin soon in 2023, and their swearing in is next week, I believe, the 28th. 29th. So if people are available, that would be very fine to support those new firefighters. We have 1 new dispatcher coming on. The committee heard a brief explanation or presentation from Ms. Gribben and from Mr. Geist. There is an enterprise zone agreement that is working its way through the process. It will be considered this evening by the Board of Education. It will also be considered at some point by the Pioneer Board of Education, and it's expected to come to us January 3rd, our January 3rd meeting. It is from Lloyd Rebar, looking at a $750 million investment that will create 10 new full-time jobs, retain 25, with new payroll of $450,000. They're looking at a 15-year abatement at 100%. So assuming the 2 boards of education act positively, it will be on our agenda at the next meeting. The committee went into executive session. I will inform my colleagues that they should expect a salary ordinance for elected officials at the next meeting of City Council as well. Mayor, that's what my notes indicated. If my colleague, Mr. Martin, or the Finance Director have anything to offer, I would appreciate it if they would.
Thank you, Mr. Gates. Are there any other comments or questions for Mr. Gates in regard to this report? Mr. Gates.
Mayor, I move that the combined financial statement and the cash investment reconciliation statement, both dated November 30th, 2022, be received, placed on file, and posted to the city's website.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. Martin that the combined financial statement and the cash investment reconciliation statement, both dated November 30th, 2022, be received, placed on file, and posted to the city website. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yay.
Mr. Rob.
Yay.
Mr. Roberts.
Yay.
Mr. Gates.
Yay.
Mr. Martin.
Yay.
That motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gates.
You're very welcome.
We move now to the Utilities and Streets Committee. Councilman Martin.
All right, thank you, Mayor. The Utilities and Streets Committee met also this past Thursday, and we discussed some amazing things, so buckle up. Here we go. First one is septage receiving update. I know you guys have just been waiting with bated breath on this one, but I have some relatively bad news for you. The discussions are still ongoing for ways to accept and process our septage waste. No decision has been made at this point. Our original thought to de-water septage and activated sludge as a combined waste sludge comes at a very high cost. So we're looking at other ways to de-water the septage waste and possibly treatment by aeration and pressing. So more to come on that one. All right. We're also researching grants, principal forgiveness grants, et cetera, through the Ohio EPA to fund the project process. So the initial numbers for the project costs were much higher than we anticipated. So more to come on that. Water treatment plant, chemical cost updates. Our water treatment plant operators are doing a fantastic job of managing the chemical usage. They understood the chemicals were more expensive and are striving to keep the costs down while maintaining our obsolete processes. As projected in October, the only chemical needing a purchase requisition in December would be ferric. All other chemicals that were needed for the treatment process had an open PO to cover the expense. Funds are already encumbered for most of the chemical purchases. Our invoices paid to date in December, around $19,500. Invoices pending in December are chlorine at around $1,000, that's shipping on December 15th, and ferric at $11,000, shipping on December 16th. Obviously, the reason why we're bringing up chemicals too is because of the discussion about water softening. Our committee had asked Mr. Ensman and the administration just to research water softening and give us an update on exactly what does that mean. I will say at the onset of this discussion that water softening is kind of a misnomer, in that when we think of water softening, we think that we are producing soft water, and that is not accurate. So we are softening the water, but we are going, as I'll explain in a second, we are going from slightly very hard water to very hard water. There you go. So I'll explain that with the parts per million discussion here. So we'll start there. What is soft water? The hardness concentrations are measured in parts per million or milligrams per liter, but we're going to use parts per million for this, just to be able to get out of here. So soft water is considered a 0 to 17.1 parts per million of hardness concentrations. Slightly hard water is 17.1 to 60 parts per million. Moderately hard water is 60 to 120 parts per million. Hard water is 120 to 180, and very hard water is anything above 180. So general information about hardness in water. Hardness does not pose a health risk. The calcium, magnesium in drink water can help ensure the average daily requirements for these minerals. There are some aesthetic effects of hard water. Hard water can cause mineral buildup on plumbing pipes and fixtures. This can cause low water pressure and low efficiency for some appliances like electric water heaters. Hard water can cause deposits on dishes, utensils, wash machines. Soaps can perform poorly. Less lather may change the taste of water. It could make coffee bitter. Anyways, those are the references from Department of Health, etc. I'm not going to go into much of that. But it also does have one of the pros, I guess. It does provide a coating on the inside of your pipes so that you don't get the rust coming through to the water as well. So, and we'll get into that when it comes to pH balances here in a second. All right. So we did a source water hardness study to conduct look at the lime softening that is used in the surrounding communities and the respected treated finished hardness concentrations. So note that our source water comes from Black Fork River and then also Reservoir 3 Marshland. All right. The water hardness survey results. So we looked at a bunch of different cities, whether they softened or not, and looked at their raw water hardness to their finished water hardness. In Shelby, we do softening, but we go from an average of 170 to 200 parts per million, or milligrams per liter. Raw water hardness, and our softening gets that to 140 to 170. So like I said, not really making soft water. In fact, nobody on this list is actually making any soft water. The most drastic change was Worcester, that goes from 365 to 400 in the raw water to 89 to 95. Some places, like Mansfield, their water actually gets more harder as it goes through the process. So Mansfield, their raw water hardness starts at 110 to 140. They do not soften, and their end product is 160 to 240. And the reason for that is that they don't just use, their intake includes wells. And so that adds to the hardness of their water supply. Part of the reason that we, just so you know, part of the reason we actually go through a softening process at all is because we used to draw from wells as well. And so it kind of balances things out. But us using lime really doesn't affect things much. Obviously there would be a bigger expense to use more lime to do that, plus there are other problems, pH balances, etc. Lime does present a risk to what was it? Turbidity? That wasn't right. What? Turbidity. Thank you. And so it does provide a risk there. All right. We kind of looked at the pros and cons, the pH adjustment, etc. And the bottom line is that we're still going through call it a fact-finding mission on this. However, the committee did recommend that the administration look at a timeline and research ending lime softening in our community. The savings would be around $100,000 a year. We would not have to worry about turbidity issues, and the end product would not be any worse, but it wouldn't be noticeable to the average consumer. So that was our recommendation, and so they have already started gathering more information, what that looked like. Of course, we have to make sure that our pH balances are still well within reason, etc. We're not just going to yank lime out of our system tomorrow. It's going to be probably a multi-month process to make sure that we've dotted our I's, crossed our T's, and made sure that this is the right move to do. But from a quality issue, to this member of the committee is a no-brainer. Basically, we have a lot of upside with no negative downside. Plus, we don't have to worry about disposing of the lime after it's used and processed as well. And of course, one of the big risks is that we have a main that goes under one of those lime pits. And so that's always a concern as far as what something happens to that main. How do we address that, et cetera, et cetera. So obviously not having the lime sludge pits anymore would be a benefit to that as well. So a lot of pros, very few cons. Seem like a no-brainer, but the administration is going to be fleshing that out more, and of course updating us every step of the way. There's a ton of research here as well that you guys should have gotten in your emails, including the water plant survey from other communities that talks about their water source, the raw water hardening, what method of softening do they use, et cetera, et cetera. That's a lot of just really light, airy reading. It's very good. Good information. But the bottom line is we spend $100,000 a year for, on average, about 25 parts per million difference in the hard water. Nothing that will be noticeable. One thing that the administration has looked at too is, well, it's not noticeable to us, making sure that our industry is aware of the change, because it might affect tweaks here or there to their processes. So making sure that that's not in conflict. So yeah, there's that. All right, on to the last bit of information we talked about, the public notification system. Shelby's public notification system is Nixle. We pay every year $3,500 for around 1,000 subscribers. Subscriptions have continued to grow, and it is promoted heavily by our utilities. We are going to be switching our public notification system to WINS, Wireless Emergency Notification System. The program registration is actually through Richland County. The county entered into an agreement to support 125,000 subscribers, which is the population of the county. The county covers the cost for the notification system. There's no cost to the city or subscribers to join, and we get unlimited postings for the city. Subscribers can receive messages via text or voicemail or emails. They can sign up for just Shelby notifications or any other listings on the notification system, to include county notifications. So it does streamline the notification to the personal preference. Signing up is very fast and easy, and it is a free program, and we highly recommend Shelby residents to subscribe to the alert system. Examples of the notifications posted for Shelby: they can get it on power outages, peak power alerts, road closures, parade information, tree trimming, storm damage cleanup, leaf pickup schedule, closures, safety services, health-related matters, mosquito spraying, etc. Right now, to sign up, you can go to the Richland County, Ohio homepage, click on RC Alerts, and it will give a provided link. It also will be linked on our website as well. I believe that was, anyways, and then when you're finished with that, you just hit sign up now. We walked through it during the committee. It was a pretty simple form. For residents that don't have a cell phone or email, they can still sign up by entering their landline number to receive a voice message for alerts, which is a nice feature, because not everyone has a cell phone. I haven't met anybody, but I'm told there are people out there who don't have a cell phone. So residents will be able to use the City of Shelby website to direct them to the county subscription page. Mayor, that is my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Mr. Martin, sorry. Are there any comments or questions for Mr. Martin in regard to his report? I'll move on. Fancy?
Excuse me.
Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Gates.
I appreciate the information about softening water, and I would very strongly urge the administration to be in communication with our industrial users here. This was a concern when this issue raised its ugly head a few months ago, that we were, the possibility could be that we're simply shifting costs from the city onto the homeowners and businesses here. Particularly businesses that have boilers that heat with hot water, such as the school system. Any number of churches use hot water. It's not a very much used source. Most of us use natural gas, I get that. But nonetheless, we need to bring them into this process that again, not really saving anybody any money if we simply are just shifting the cost from the water plant out into customers. So, again, Mayor, I think the administration needs to be very deliberate, very open with these people, and let them know, what the city is considering. Well, I'll leave it at that.
And that is our plan, and that's a point of discussion this morning, so thank you for that. We're thinking along the same lines. Mr. McLaughlin?
Mr. Mayor, thank you, Councilman Gates. Yeah, just to expand a little bit, when Councilman Martin said, it's going to take several months to do this, we had discussed pulling back maybe just 25% for few months, pausing, collecting some feedback, evaluating, and then pulling back another 25%, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not gonna, just be stopping this. So just wanted to clarify a little bit.
Sure. Thank you. Mr. Gates.
Well, I'm glad to know about that, but that reminds me of the fable of the camel. It simply wanted to stick its nose in under the tent to get warm, and as we all know with that fable, by the end, the camel was in the tent all the way.
Mr. Martin.
That's all well and good. We're going to go through a deliberate process, but let's not try to overthink this. This isn't a major change. It isn't like we're going to all of a sudden wake up tomorrow and everyone's going to realize that we've changed the water. I guarantee you, if the process had not been in the open and the administration had just made this change, that not a single person would be able to tell a significant difference in 20 parts per million of their water hardness. So and I would be willing to put money on that, on any taste test or anything like that. Now, people will say it now because, of course, it's in the open, and people are like, oh, I can tell the difference between 20 parts per million, and I call bull crap on that. All right, so this isn't a major change. It's not like we actually have soft water in the city, and we're going to be removing that, going to hard water. Like I said, we're going to be on the cusp of very hard water to the cusp of moderate hard water. That is it. And, we're going to go through the process because we're bureaucrats and that's what we do. And, we move at the speed of a snail's pace when it comes to government. But let's not overthink the process. When we have an ability to save us hundreds of thousands of dollars, all the EPA fines that we had that were a result of turbidity in our water won't be existing. And we're going to have a consistent, better product for our customers and our consumers and everyone involved, and it's going to save money without any of the risks, including lime sludge fields that we have, pH balances offsets, and a lot of other cons that come from us having to be very, very careful because we're adding lime to a process. Let's not try to overthink this. And that's my point. That's my point of the committee. And I know the administration is going to do a good job of making sure that everything is good on that end to make sure that things run smoothly. So,
Ms. Rob.
Just to answer Mr. Gates' concerns a little bit, I was the former owner of a commercial boiler system and also have a boiler system in my home, and part of the requirements by the state is that it has to be inspected, which it's inspected by the state or a private company licensed by the state to do those inspections, and routine maintenance on those systems is a must. And part of that maintenance, including my home system, is routine analysis of the water in that system and adjustment of that chemistry to make sure that the boiler isn't damaged by hard water or some other acidic condition or whatever. But that's all part of the maintenance of that system, and if it's done routinely, there's absolutely no problem.
Mr. Gates.
Did I hear say that the city was fined because of turbidity in our water? I believe that's what my colleague here said.
Ms. Martin.
we had 2 years ago, we had an issue with our EPA and water was going into the river. That was brought up in the committee meeting, so. Mr. Ensman has a blank look on his face.
I didn't blink over my face, I'm trying to think, how to answer that one. Turbidity, to answer the question, the direct answer, there has been no fines for turbidity. we have been on the cusp of having fines, but the operators have worked through that to prevent that getting into a situation where it would have been a fine. So there has been no fines. Yes, sir.
Mayor, I'm glad to hear that, and my thanks to the operators for that.
So, it's a delicate process. All right. Any other comments or questions for Mr. Martin? All right, now we'll move forward then to the Safety Committee. Councilman Roberts.
Thank you, sir. We met on December 7th. In fire news, we learned that the takeover of EMS was going very good, and everyone was stepping up to make it work. Revenue for the runs is coming in slowly, and we all expected that. At the onset, it will come in quicker as we move along. To help out the stress that has, there has been stress with the takeover. 3 new firefighters, as Mr. Gates said earlier, will be sworn in on December 29th at 1 p.m. They will start the first week of January, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. They will start in those consecutive days, and so when we back up to we'll be over staff that we've always been, and that will help with the EMS runs. The next thing is where we're going to put it. That's always the question now is where are they going to be housed? So we're working through that, and I'm sure we'll have more information down the road for that. The ladder truck was in the shop, and at that time, and hopefully it'll be back in service soon. I don't know if that's changed at all or not. If we got the ladder, still do not have the ladder truck back. In Health Department news, we had 1 nuisance case left over, and that was with the prosecutor. COVID cases were up with 49 cases in November. And as we started getting, very recently, we had 3 chlamydia cases, 1 gonorrhea case. RSV seems to be stabilizing. The flu is picking up, and that's getting kind of nasty. Measles cases in the state were 59. Let's see, police news. As Mr. Martin addressed, the Nixle is going to be going away because of the cost, and we will go into the WEN system. And I won't have to, Mr. Martin elaborated very thoroughly, way more than I would have, so we'll leave it at that. Thank you. We're going to get 6 new license plate readers, cameras that they're stationary, and they're going to be distributed around town. Each camera will cover 2 lanes and can be used to detect suspect vehicles that have been programmed into the database. So, somebody steals a car, the license plate gets programmed into the system, and if that car comes through one of our license plate readers, it'll get picked up, and we'll be able to help catch that. It works with anytime that they can have a license plate number for a vehicle, whether it be an abduction, anything like that. If it comes through us and goes past one of our cameras, it'll be detected, and Chief assures me that it's not going to be used to catch speeders or minor stuff. But if something major comes up and that license plate is put into the system, that's when it'll be utilized. So, stolen vehicles or child abductions is one big, couple big things, and that's my role.
Mr. Roberts, are any comments or questions for Mr. Roberts in regard to his report? Appreciate it very much. It should be noted for the record that the committee of the whole met this evening at 6:30. I know it'll be a very, very brief report with Councilman McLaughlin. You just want to win an executive session.
Yes, so the committee of the whole did meet for half an hour just before this meeting, and we went into executive session, so I have nothing to report at this time.
Thank you, sir. All right, we'll move on then to reports of city officials. I have a couple motions here to consider. I'll make mine very brief this evening. Since our last council meeting, I've been attending to the varied responsibilities of the mayor's office. I attended the RCDC Leadership Board meeting in Ontario on the 6th of December. On the 9th of December, Son and I attended the Small Business of the Year luncheon. That was sponsored by Richland Area Chamber and Economic Development. Proud to say that Beers Repair Service of Shelby was recognized as the Small Business of the Year in the 14 and under category, so congratulations to Beers Repair Service. On the 15th of December, I had a monthly mayor's staff meeting. On the 15th of December, I attended the Richland County Safety Council meeting held in Ontario. I will say, if you've been watching the weather and weather maps and weather channels, there is a possibility of a winter storm rolling in Friday, so we will keep a close eye on that. And as usual, if things look to get precarious, there may be an early closure at City Hall, so just please stay tuned for any developments in that regard. And that's my report. Are there any questions or comments in regard to my report? If not, let's move forward then to these motions under the report of the mayor, confirmation, and then a liquor hearing request to consider. So, motion to consider the appointment. Mr. Martin.
I move to confirm the appointment of Kate Curran to the Shelby Historic Preservation Commission.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Martin, a second by Mr. Roberts for the confirmation of the appointment of Kate Curran to the Shelby Historic Preservation Commission. She is presently a member. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yay.
Mr. Rob.
Yay.
Mr. Roberts.
Yay.
Mr. Gates.
Yay.
Mr. Martin.
Yay.
That motion to confirm passes. Mr. Martin.
Move to request a liquor hearing for Ivory Bean Coffee House LLC at 44 East Main Street.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Martin, a second by Mr. Roberts for the request of a liquor hearing for Ivory Bean Coffee House LLC at 44 East Main Street. Discussion. Mr. McLaughlin.
Just to make sure. You usually vote no on these, correct?
Unless you want to go into farmers or something.
Exactly.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Nay.
Mr. Rob.
Nay.
Mr. Roberts.
Nay.
Mr. Gates.
Nay.
Mr. Martin.
Nay.
The motion to request fails. We'll now move forward. Anything else from you? Let's move forward to Mr. Crum, Director of Finance.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Gates covered just about everything pretty well. No update on whether we'll hit that $6 million mark or not. A little bit close, but I can't tell you yet. It's still a lot of months to go. Working on finishing up the health department audit. They're in the final review stages of that engagement, so you'll probably see drafts of that report. The first meeting in January would be my guess. Also beginning to wrap up year-end things here. Everybody will be getting an email from me tomorrow to do your consumables inventory counts, and I'll probably also pass our fixed asset list around to make sure that is up to date with any disposals or additions in the next few days. Anything else I can think of? I think that's about it. We have legislation tonight. I've perused the various line items and appropriations a lot over the last few weeks. I think to get everything all straight, assuming if I grovel enough and you guys pass the amended appropriations tonight, we should be good for the end of the year without any issues. Speaking of the end of the year, I will be out of town the 29th through, I think, the 1st. But I'll still be available via phone and email. So that is my report.
Thank you, Mr. Crum. Any comments or questions for Mr. Crum in regard to his report? Move forward then to Mr. Eister, Law Director.
No report here, Mr. Mayor. I would note I will be likewise out of town the 25th to 29th.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Gates, Project Coordinator.
Thank you, Mayor. Just finishing up some year end, but I also am a member of the Community Improvement Corporation, Ordinance 2822 designated the CICs for the agent for the sale of property. The committee did vote to act on that, and a purchase agreement has been prepared and signed, so, the potential buyer is, doing his title work and search and so forth and so forth. And then, closing can be done then, so, moving forward. That's all I have.
All right, are there any comments or questions from Mr. Geis in regard to his report? All right, let's move forward to new business. Is there any new business brought before council this evening? Mr. Roberts.
Yeah, quickly, mid last week, we had our volunteer firefighters dependent fund board meeting and our volunteer peace officers dependent fund board meeting. The members on that now will be myself as the chairman, Mr. Gates as secretary, Chris Corbus, Mike Coleman, and then Mike Potter will be the fifth member. And the volunteer peace officers dependent fund board, the same, myself as the chair, Councilman Gates as the secretary, Marissa Rutherford, and Brooke Early will be the volunteers on that, and Mike Potter also makes up the fifth member of that board. And that is the only meeting we want to have with that board every year, because if we meet a second time, that means somebody's been killed in their inaction.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts.
Thank you.
Thank you, and Councilman Gates, for your work on those two boards. Any other new business? I'll move forward to unfinished business, the former ice plant property. I believe that'll be going away pretty soon. We'll see how that goes. Future use of the Main Street Fire Station. Try to get some traction on that in the month of January, so it will try to, Mr. Martin.
Is it occupied right now? The old fire
No.
station?
We, their vehicles, like the taxi and a couple other vehicles that were parked there, so nobody's scraping early in the morning. But it's not, and then say it heats down the road, they'll just keep things freezing along inside the building.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other unfinished business? Let's move into legislation.
Ordinance number 30.
Did you send your hand up?
I did, yes.
Okay, Mr. Martin.
Move for a quick 4-minute recess.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Martin and a second by Mr. Roberts for a 4-minute recess. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yay.
Mr. Rob.
Yay.
Mr. Roberts.
Yay.
Mr. Gates.
Yay.
Mr. Martin.
Yay.
The motion passes. We recess at 8:17.
You wanted to stay for my
That's a little bit.
Yeah.
buttons in here tonight. It's like
COVID
numbers.
Well, we know there's Jackson, Sharon Township.
I said.
Oh, yeah.
Making
I was like,
mean
I'm not
faces.
Is that least only the steps on?
There is.
Oh, this was,
Because
this
actually
actually
put it
the
all in there.
Blackhawks have
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, they can't.
That legislation's still pending. It's just
That's something. Tom came in at the time on that, I was really nice, his equipment set aside. I think it's not a good communication. I really do. Well, I'm gonna keep
You know,
a few.
You wanna take it with you?
Like,
No, we're
this
good.
one and this one.
Good.
Yeah.
And we've been, built.
As much, that was the other than so
Good stuff.
mindset on the
Hopefully.
jumps in such as that for a long time. So like, this was just.
Oh, I'm not doing
And
that.
actually just kind of tweak it
I
out.
meant for you and Sherry.
So it helps.
You know, I think even to your point, and this is what you said, it's coming to fruition, like the rest of our kitchen.
What I'm
So
hoping is the
eventually, I mean,
commercials.
Oh.
very.
Definitely commercials should be on.
But-
It is, yeah.
Radio ads.
I want the
It
pay,
continue,
maybe.
we'll continue.
Oh, we need some debates. Now we're talking.
Hey,
I mean, we're not.
Oh, the municipal office debate, or two races. What we have.
We should
Yeah.
have last time. Everybody
Just-
ran out of hose.
Yeah. Hey, let's have some questions.
I've learned it.
Yeah, I'm just, yeah, the study was going on.
I think we need to start, did you need to start looking?
Oh, good. We do. We do.
No, so you have to go ahead and find the office.
And John's great.
All day
He's very
tomorrow.
serious
I got
about
prep more for it.
You're responding here.
Oh, I got
Yeah,
two.
we'll get back to
Right
that
now,
after
common pleas
Well,
and
those
risk.
are numbers before.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, luckily, bottom line, it has to be money.
We think we got the right one set now. We're going forward.
Have fun.
Yep.
Oh, what happened to you? Should we see?
Gordon, if I got a piece of legislation for January 3rd, I should get it to you this week.
It'd be a good idea.
Gentlemen?
Maria will be in.
Yeah, like I said,
So,
it is conservative just now. I think we just got that. I know it's giving up my duty. Really ambitious.
we'll probably have the closed Sunday, right?
I don't think so. They changed it in 94, when they changed to 75 days. And then they changed it in the early 2000s. And like I said, now they changed it.
Well, I will get
No items. Chance to contest it. But it's in charter. It's like, I know it's a big deal to change. Things make sense.
You have somebody come in.
Yeah, next week she'll-
Yeah, detergent and.
30 seconds, gentlemen.
Our meeting is usually first Monday of the.
We have to be
It's amazing.
the first after municipal election. So,
Kim?
Yeah, I knew there was one of those that said in there, my stomach, we had no choice. That's happened once in the last 12 years, I think. I think New Year's Day, wasn't it?
yeah,
Yeah, it was like
it's 7 p.m.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't care what bowl game's going on, you
Yeah.
know, we're here.
Yep.
Okay, date 21. Are you ready, Mr. Crone?
Sir.
Reporter? Are we on?
Yes, we
All
are.
right, very good. So now we'll move forward to legislation.
Ordinance number 30, 2022, determining that certain real property owned by the city of Shelby be transferred and declaring an emergency.
I move that the rule requiring that an ordinance be read on 3 separate occasions be suspended.
Second?
We have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. Roberts that the rule requiring that ordinance be read on 3 separate occasions be suspended. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yay.
Mr. Rob.
Yay.
Mr. Roberts. Mr. Gates.
Yay.
Mr. Martin.
Yay.
The motion to suspend passes.
Move the ordinance be taken up and passed.
Second?
We have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. Roberts for the passage of ordinance number 30, 2022. Discussion. Mr. Gates?
Mayor, this is one of those odd pieces of legislation where we're transferring a piece of property from the city of Shelby to the city of Shelby. But Elaine, and I can think of her former name, I can't think of her present name, Mr. Geis will tell. Pardon? Keever, thank you. She is in charge of the tax map office. On the plat that was attached, there is a note that parcel 1, which is the 20-foot wide parcel that we are retaining as a buffer south of the light plant, that needs to be transferred before parcel 2, the balance of the property can be transferred to for the Black Fork Brewery. So that's why we're here. I know when I sent the request to the law director, it was rather cryptic, but I said, talk to Elaine. She'll tell you what needs to be done. So I appreciate that he has this before us so that we can get that done so that the very important transfer can take place.
Thank you for that explanation.
If I can follow up on that, basically this is language in the description, the reservation down here. Grantees hereby covenant and agree the parcel of land described in this instrument and any portion thereof does not constitute a principal building site, etc. That's the language that we're putting in here that was required through language.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yay.
Mr. Rob.
Yay.
Mr. Roberts.
Yay.
Mr. Gates.
Yay.
Mr. Martin.
Yay.
Ordinance number 30, 2022 passes.
Ordinance number 31, 2022. Amending ordinance number 3, 2022, annual appropriations and declaring an emergency.
I move that the rule requiring that an ordinance be read on 3 separate occasions be suspended.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. Martin, that the rule requiring that an ordinance be read on 3 separate occasions be suspended. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yay.
Mr. Rob.
Yay.
Mr. Roberts.
Yay.
Mr. Gates.
Yay.
Mr. Martin.
Yay.
That motion to suspend passes.
Move the ordinance be taken up and passed.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. Martin for the passage of ordinance number 31, 2022. Discussion. Mr. Gates.
My thanks to the finance director for always, obviously, for balancing the books, but doing so in a timely manner that we don't have to meet between the holidays.
Yes. Mr. Crum.
Thank you. Just a quick note on a couple lines. Most of these are just, we were close and just not quite there. The one item, this 101 TRS 447 transfer capital improvement, I put 20,000 in there. I'm hoping that I don't need to use that. You'll see later on I added 18,000 to the police cruisers because you remember that our order was canceled, new order made with increased cost. That 20,000 there, because the 300 fund is so tight, that's in case for some reason our tax revenues this month do not give us enough money to fund that line item. So I put that in there as a buffer. I'm hoping not to use it, but I want to get it in here just in case. And you'll see that bottom line, the claim payments of 200,000. That's our hospitalization fund. This year there's just been a lot of crazy medical expenses, which is unfortunate. And I think this is actually the second time we've had to increase it from last year. It is funded. I've been in contact with the county auditor. They know that it has an increased revenue source in conjunction with it. So no issues. I just needed to increase the so. Other than that, it's mainly just bookkeeping stuff.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yay.
Mr. Rob.
Yay.
Mr. Roberts.
Yay.
Mr. Gates.
Yay.
Mr. Martin.
Yay.
Ordinance number 31, 2022 passes.
My sincere gratitude. Resolution number 67, 2022. Authorizing the mayor as Director of Public Safety to enter into a contract with Richland County Land Utilization Corporation for the services of demolition of buildings within the city of Shelby that pose a significant threat to the safety and well-being of the citizens of the city of Shelby and declaring an emergency.
Move resolution be taken up and passed.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Roberts and a second by Mr. Gates for the passage of resolution 67, 2022. Discussion. Mr. Geis.
Thank you, Mayor. This came up, we have some, two structures that Mr. Dean and I were looking at. We met with the law director and the time for we need to go, there's a safety hazard and so forth. So we went ahead and called over to the land bank, and we've had this agreement before with them during Natalie's building and a few other ones, but what this will do is you'll see on the list of Schedule 1, the scope of services, for us to go through the process of getting the property and tearing it down and so forth. There's a whole number of things that have to do that we're not set up to do or haven't done a lot or whatever. So the land bank will provide those services for us and for $775 for each structure. And even the better part of it is they send us a bill for $775 and an itemized cost of what it's going to cost to tear that down. The city council would have 120 days to certify or pass a resolution ordinance to put that on the taxes for that property. 3 things happened after that. The property.
So he's speaking of Schedule 3, but this is really Schedule 3.
3 things: the property would pay the taxes, that comes back to the city, then we pay the land bank that way. The property goes through the foreclosure process and then sheriff's sale. The sheriff will determine what the cost of that and how they make that determination through its, sure it's through the treasurer also. But also those costs of demolition are added to that, that's paid back to the city. We pay the land bank back what they put into it. Or if it goes to the property foreclosure, the sheriff's sale, no one buys it, it becomes a property of the state of Ohio. The land bank can then sell that property, and then once they would keep the money for the sale for that. So to get rid of these structures and so forth, it will cost the city $775. So I think it's a pretty neat program that the land bank offers, and they've got the skills and the ways to do it. So.
Mr. Martin?
So there's only one property that we're looking at,
Mr.
Right
Geis?
now, there's two.
Mr. Martin?
at $775 per. The certificate we have here is just for $775, so it should be for twice that amount?
Well, this is just for the opportunity for us to do it. The land bank and board now so has to approve this document yet. So if we were to use one, we have to go through the process yet. So I think once we do this agreement, we would write a $775. This isn't for any particular project. This is just to set the process up if we need to do that. And then if we were to do that, then we can write a requisition and get out a line item, and it's certainly under the dollar amount.
Mr. Martin?
So the certificate from the fiscal officer, that only needs to be for $775.
In my mind, I don't think we need one at all. Because this is just setting up the process of how we're going to go about this, but obviously that's you guys'
Mr. Gates?
Well, there's provision in the city charter that says we cannot consider any piece of legislation entered into a contract absent a certificate from the finance director. So, we do need it because the charter requires it.
Mr. Crum?
I can certify that we do have $1,550 available in that fund. If you would like, I can either verbally do that and send it via email, or I could, I don't know if you want to call it recess for tonight, so I can go over to the copier and print one. Happy to do so.
Mr. Gates?
The revised code is very clear. It says that the certification of availability of funds must be in writing. So, but if the finance director wanted to take this copy here and cross out that figure and initial it, this member of council would consider that to be acceptable. And he may have that back for his files.
Thank you, sir.
And for the record, what does your certification say? The amount?
Yes, it's $1,550.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Mr. Gates?
Just a comment, when you see all the things that the land bank's gonna do, it's cheap at twice the price.
Thank you.
And someone else has to do it. You know, we're not adding more layers of stuff on city hall people to do. It's great.
Because I may add, they're efficient too.
Yeah, yes.
We would be at this for a long time.
And one of those properties is on 2nd Street in my ward, and it has been a burr under my saddle for years. I'll do a happy dance when I see the equipment tearing it down.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yeah.
Mr. Rob.
Yeah.
Mr. Roberts.
Yay.
Mr. Gates.
Yeah.
Mr. Martin.
Yay.
Resolution number 67, 2022 passes.
Resolution number 68, 2022, authorizing the mayor as Director of Public Safety of the City of Shelby to apply for a Bureau of Workers' Compensation Safety Intervention Grant for firefighters' exposure to environmental elements for firefighting gloves and hoods and declaring an emergency.
Move the resolution be taken up and passed.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Roberts and a second by Mr. Gates for the passage of resolution number 68, 2022. Discussion? Roll call,
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yay.
Mr. Rob.
Yay.
Mr. Roberts.
Yay.
Mr. Gates.
Yay.
Mr. Barton.
Yay.
please. Resolution number 68, 2022 passes.
Resolution number 69, 2022, declaring the intent to vacate Glen Road in the city of Shelby, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Move the resolution taken and passed.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Martin and a second by Mr. Gates for the passage of resolution number 69, 2022. Discussion? Mr. Gates.
And not really a comment on the resolution itself, except I ask unanimous consent in section 2, or section 3, where there are two instances where the word revisions is there. It is the Board of Revision of Assessment. I ask that the S be stricken in those two instances.
By unanimous consent, the changes to be made, Board of Revisions, change the Board of Revision as repeated twice in section 3. Are there any, my mind is blank, objections to that, with the changes? If not, they will be made as presented. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. McLaughlin. Yay. Mr. Rob.
Yay.
Mr. Roberts.
Yay.
Mr. Gates.
Yay.
Mr. Martin.
Yay.
Resolution number 69, 2022 passes. Now comes time for miscellaneous business. And miscellaneous business will be brought before council this evening. Mr. Gates.
Mayor, I'd like to take an opportunity to wish everyone a happy Hanukkah, a Merry Christmas, a happy Kwanzaa, and a prosperous and peaceful New Year. And a reminder that we will meet on Tuesday the 3rd, because the holiday will be celebrated at City Hall on the 2nd.
Any further miscellaneous business? Mr. Gates.
Mayor, and the council adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. Martin for adjournment. Roll call, please.
Mr. McLaughlin. Yay. Mr. Rob.
Yay.
Mr. Roberts.
Yay.
Mr. Gates.
Yay.
Mr. Martin.
Yay.
Motion passes. We adjourn at 8:36. Thank you, gentlemen.
Mayor Caution with his introduction for the mayor.